bienvenue, willkommen to another fabulous pre-recorded live from New York on Monday afternoon. It's Famous Interviews, a show where I summon phantoms of a formerly living legend for a sit-down and a chinwag and a lovely look at their laudable lives. And today's scheduled sojourner's life was not only laudable, but lengthy, having celebrated over a century of vitality. In 1921, her story started in Queens, New York, though she is sometimes suspected of coming from somewhere out of this world, in the most complimentary way, of course. She was a designer who put her unique outlook on style and fashion into the minds and mythos of the multitudes. She began her career as a businesswoman, a very successful businesswoman, dealing in fine and antiquated textiles from here and overseas. Also an interior designer, she meticulously combed the planet to find first-rate fabrics which appealed to her discerning and cultivated tastes. And what she couldn't find, she wove herself. A veritable arachne. No spider she. The actual weaving was done in the textile factory she owned with her husband. And after a lifetime's worth of selecting, collecting, and creating, what made her famous and put her in the public eye turned out to be her own unique personal apparel. No Coco Chanel, Vivienne Westwood, or Diane von Seckendenberg. Her art was in putting things together. Bit by bit, putting it together, piece by piece, only way to make a work of art, as penned by the Pulitzer Prize-winning god of musicals, Stephen Sondheim. She knew what to put with what, and then put some more and more of that what with what on top. It's a little difficult arranging myself. I'm afraid this outfit is better while erect. What's that, Egbert? Heavens, dear, no. Standing on my feet. Feet, Egbert, feet. Goodness. Now that I'm refreshed, I shall initiate today's invocation of... Oh dear, Ma, I forgot to tell you who I'm hailing. Darlings, join your mental powers with mine in convoking the spirit of none other than the electrifying, astonishing Iris Apfel. What now, Egbert? Well, excuse me, but I think I know the name of my own guest. Thank you very much. Now be a good producer and shh, before you go and ruin my aura. Let us commence Le Conjuring. A parley adieu for just me and you. Oops. Please come into view. Fabulous Iris Apfel, appear and chat a while with me upon my humble stage. Help us all to finally see why you were all the rage. Commune with us, Iris Apfel, commune with us. Incarnate amongst us, substantiate amongst us. And don't be mingling, darling, coming through as a doodle. Where the heck am I? Must be some kind of designer hell. Oh, still hanging on to that sophisticated sense of humor. Tee-hee-hee-hee. But how lovely to have thee, Iris Apfel, here on my little program. And perhaps today I might say, a Fuji apple. You call me down to this concocted show and you don't even know my name? What kind of racket is this? Racket? I didn't play tennis. Or pickleball. Don't you just love that name? Pickleball. 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 Oh, boy. And of course I know your name, dear. Please, avez-vous un seat? You're the famous designer who put the shine on fashion. Iris Apfel. No, my name isn't Apple. It's Iris Apfel. The world's oldest formerly living teenager. The geriatric starlet. But I don't know. Maybe you were trying for someone else. No, darling. It was you and only you I wanted. Unmistakably you. Iris Apfel. Of course. Who else had such a flair for style? Had such a flair for style.
Speaking of style, who helped you put together that outfit?
Well, of course I had me own expert designer, Bob Tacky.
Don't listen to the experts. Do what you like. Take chances. Be bold.
Yes, and I was about to say, before so rudely interrupted, against my expert designer's advice, I wanted to wear something especially nice pour vous. So I assembled this little get-up all by myself. I just knew you'd love my chic and original style.
I didn't say I like it. I think you have to be original, but not original to the point where you're nutsy. And that getup is bananas. But I suppose bananas is a style.
Just because it's yellow doesn't make it bananas, bitch. And this fruity style doesn't come cheap, Mrs. Apple fell far from the tree. It's all hot fashion.
Fashion you can buy. Style you possess, or you don't.
Are you saying there's something wrong with this outfit?
Where to begin? Well, first of all, that shoulder is not very flattering. You should look at some Gautier or Valentino and see how what you're trying to do is done properly. Do the research.
I've done the research. I studied long and hard and long to acquire my sense of style.
Style is nothing you can learn. Style is in your DNA.
Then perhaps I need a blood test. Or I should get a biologist. And how exactly do you define style?
Attitude. Style is attitude, attitude, attitude. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it.
More like what you do it with. Perhaps if I had your $25 million, I could afford an elegant style you'd esteem.
Elegance doesn't mean expensive. Style has nothing to do with how much you spend.
Well, still, I'd love to be able to buy a bevy of bangles like you sport. Though I'd need a gym membership first. Me arms could barely bear the weight. However do you do it, dearest?
I can never be bothered to exercise. You don't need arm strength, you need strength of character. And all the workouts with all the best trainers in the world can't give you that.
Well, I suppose at your advanced age, exercise wasn't the fashion.
A healthy lifestyle is always in fashion.
Oh, were you a health nut?
I wasn't any kind of a nut. But I always looked after my diet. Ate well all my life, avoided junk food, and exercised periodically for my health.
Well, I just meant that at your wizened age, you could break a hip. Jumping jacks must have been a thing of the past.
And now I'm a thing of the past. But I remained active almost all of my life, and it was a good long one. I had a business with my husband Carl called Old World Weaving. Kept me very busy. We sold and restored textiles. Redecorated the White House for 6 presidents, from Truman to Clinton. I liked old things. I always liked vintage or things that looked old. Made me look better.
I think you made you look better. At least you tried. Always a light-hearted approach to your style. Never took yourself too seriously, I should think. I know I didn't.
I didn't want to look serious. I like to have fun, and I think it's good to have a few mistakes. I think Diana Vreeland said, "You can suffer from too much good taste." Of course, that's something you need never worry about. As Marie Dressler said to Jean Harlow,
"Dinner at 8.
I won't be staying that long. And of course, as you well know, I don't eat anymore, Miss...
Oh dear, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Lady Mary Pozah.
No kidding. Could have fooled me.
No kidding. I'm the hostess of this show, Famous Interviews. And I wasn't asking you to dine, dear, but referencing the film you quoted. Now, you mentioned your husband, Carl. How long exactly were you two together?
67 years. We were married 67 years.
Goodness, it could take it that long. Well, that's a long time to be with anyone. You must have gotten along splendidly. What, do tell, was your secret?
Well, I think first of all you have to like each other.
Well, sage advice. Unfortunately, the closest I came to marriage was to me sweet son Cecil's father, Fred Dick. Frederick. He was my friend with benefits, minus the friend part. But his benefit was quite substantial.
Passion wears away soon. It's good to have, and it's nice to have with it, but I think in a relationship, you should first be friends, and then I think you should both have a sense of humor. That's the most powerful tool, is humor.
Well, the funniest thing about our relationship was, aside from we had nothing at all in common. My trouble, Iris, was I kissed the toad, but that damned scrupulous toad never changed, and I could never concoct a prince.
Well, I think people who get married or have a relationship have to have certain things in common, and you should play those up. You shouldn't try to change one another. That will never work. Be yourself. You fell in love with a toad because of certain reasons, so why did you want to change him?
Well, I wouldn't exactly say fell in love. Worshipped. Genuflected. But I don't think I'd call it love. Though at the time I may have confused it with love. Well, now he's just a thing of the past. A very big thing of the past. An old toad. A forgotten frog. Un grand oui oublié, as we say in Française.
Oh, you speak French?
Well, just le petitest peu.
I love the French. I loved Paris. Paris was always wonderful. It's beautiful and exhilarating and expensive. We went there twice every year for about 50 years to visit the fabric houses and the flea market. Paris has a wonderful flea market. I'd rather go to a flea market than just about anything. It's the process I like. The same with getting dressed. If I had someplace to be, I'd spend more time getting dressed than I spend at the actual event.
I know exactly what you mean. It takes me hours just to do me makeup. When was your last visit?
To where?
Well, not the Cannes, dear. To Paris. Paris!
The last time I visited Paris was in 2016 for a photo shoot for my collection at Beaumarchais. They threw a wonderful, incredible opening party. Beautiful, with a jazz trio and champagne, the works. And I stayed till after midnight, which was way past my bedtime.
Goodness, I don't think I've seen midnight for centuries. Though I suppose it's midnight somewhere right now. I think it's very important she get one sleep, don't you? How much beauty sleep would you recommend for, well, for someone like moi?
For someone like you? I'm not sure sleep would help. I don't believe in beauty sleep and all that, and I don't think it matters. It's what you do with what you have that matters. When I first met my husband, he said I would be beautiful if I got a nose job. That was before we were dating. Well, I didn't believe in plastic surgery unless, God forbid, you're in an accident or you were born with a nose like Pinocchio. Or look like... Have you ever considered it?
Have I ever considered what?
Cosmetic surgery.
More? How very dare you! I'm a natural and always have been, except of course for a trace of lipstick and a pound or two of concealer.
Well, maybe you should consider it, but don't do it to look younger. I think if God is good to you and gave you all of these years, why try to hide it? Nobody's going to think you're 27 when you're 72. Can't make your hands look younger.
Yes, and quel fromage for that. But a pair of gloves never hurt.
So what's wrong with old hands and white hair?
I think we're of one mind on the white hair bit. You should have seen the Oscars this year. A veritable parade of surgical styles. Goldie Hawn. I loved her in Laughing. Now it's more like Cry Out. She sported a strapless golden gown, exposing her bare and raisined arms. Poor thing. No one told her to never wear satin over crepe.
Age is a matter of the way you look at things. I know 30-year-old people who are old, and 90-year-old people who are young. Get old, but don't get boring. Everything is your attitude.
Like style.
Exactly.
I recently watched that wonderful film about you by Albert Maysles. I very much enjoyed his work with the E.D. Beals at their frangible home in the Hamptons. But I think I enjoyed your movie even more. Just the opposite. Not dilapidated, but deluxe. Such a delicious and opulent Eiffel in New York and Palm Beach. So tell me, how was it working for Mr. Maysles?
Albert was a very kind, gentle, and talented man. There were a few things he left out and a few things he put in that, well, I didn't think were so important, but Maysles loved it.
Well, how did it all come about? Did you meet on some red carpet somewhere, the Oscars or a Met Gala?
He phoned me up and asked if he could film me. And I said, "Thank you so much, but no thank you." Well, I called my good friend Linda Fargo, from Bergdorf Goodman. And she said, "Are you nuts? Do it." So, well, I called him back.
And thank heavens for that. Now, I know it was a documentary, but, well, surely there must have been some form of a script or outline you followed.
He didn't work with a script. We just filmed on and off, mostly off, for 4 years.
4 years? Heavens! Well, I imagine it would take that long just to film all of your lovely things. When did you start gathering them all?
I think that I must have started collecting maybe 15 minutes out of my mother's womb.
How vivid. A century's worth of tchotchkes. Well, not to sound critical, but don't you think you may have collected just comme petite way too much?
No, I don't. More is more. Less is a bore.
My sentiments exactly, if we're talking about men. Oh, I do miss me great horned toad. At least I have his scion, me sweet son Cecil. Did you have any children? I didn't notice any in the movie.
We chose not to have children because we traveled so much for work, and I didn't want my children raised by a nanny. I didn't want to have children just because it was the norm. You can't have everything, and I knew I wanted a career.
Well, you certainly had that. And with so many friends and fans and adorers, well, that's sort of a family, isn't it? Very extended sort. Not the type who come home for holidays or send gifts for Christmas. But it's a sort. By the way, I failed to mention what a lovely outfit you're wearing. How original.
It's not original at all. It's an antique Japanese silk kimono I found at a flea market in the Marché aux Puces up in Paradise.
Puce! Puce! Funny sounding word, isn't it? Puce! Puce! And those glasses. The perfect accoutrement.
My best accessory are my eyeglasses. As a kid, I had a great fancy for spectacles. And every time I saw a pair of spectacles that was interesting, I'd buy them and put them in a box. Well, when it came time to actually wear glasses, I said, if I'm going to wear glasses, I'll wear glasses. Everybody wanted to know, why did I need such large glasses? I mean, what business is it of anybody's? Until finally I thought, well, I'll shut them up. And I would look at them and say, I need these the bigger to see you.
What a cunning linguist you were, playing the big bad she-wolf.
The cunning, the what?
My, what big eyes you have, and I'll huff and I'll puff.
Puff. I used to be a very heavy smoker. Maybe 50 years ago I stopped cold turkey. And I smoked 4 packs a day.
4 packs a day, my goodness. And yet you still lived 102 years. What do you think was the key to your longevity?
Hard work and a sense of humor. Having a sense of humor, a sense of wonder, and a sense of curiosity. Those were my tonic. I was very grown up in a lot of ways, but I think that's so sad. It's good to maintain a childlike sense of wonder.
I think you maintained it brilliantly. And apparently so did the Metropolitan Museum of Art. However did that 2005 exhibition at the Met come about?
They called it Rara Avis. I kept saying, I don't like that title. And Harold Coda kept saying, oh, it's just a working title, we'll change it. They never changed it. Means rare bird in Latin. Used to be my nickname. Anyhow, I got a call from Harold Coda. Asked me if I'd like to do a show of my accessories. And I thought, well, gee, that would be fun. So I said, okay. And then I didn't hear anything from anybody. And then I got a telephone call saying he wanted to come and see me.
Who he?
Who what?
Who wanted to come and see you?
Harold Coda. He said he was rethinking the project, and to show accessories out of context didn't make much sense to him. He thought the public would be much more interested with what you could do with the accessories. Could I possibly spare maybe 5 outfits? He would choose them to be curatorially correct, and I could accessorize them any way I chose. And I said, what would you like? And he said, well, I don't know, what do you got? So I said, well, you want to have a look? That opened a Pandora's box. They opened every closet, every armoire, every chest of drawers, every box. They even looked under the bed.
A home invasion. So what did they end up taking?
They hauled away eventually about 300 outfits. I think they ended up showing about 86 outfits.
300 outfits? I mean, I'd be lucky to scrounge up 20. But it was quite a successful show, very popular with the masses and the media.
Everybody who was anybody came. They didn't do any publicity about me. And one day my nephew was at the show, and he overheard 2 ladies discussing who was I. And nobody knew. And they said, oh, I don't know, she's probably dead. Well, he came back and he told me. And I said, next time you hear that, tap the lady on the shoulder and say, my auntie is very much alive. She's just walking around to save funeral expenses.
Tristral. Now I'd like to ask you a few quick questions, if I may.
Okay, shoot.
All right. Merci, madame. Now, first of all, prime and tout. What was the best advice you've ever received?
It came from my very brilliant father. He said I must not expect all kinds of things from my friends. If they decide to do something wonderful for me, take it as a great gift and be joyful. But if it doesn't come, you won't be upset. I think that was brilliant. Stood me in good stead.
Really? That's the best, is it? Well, it's certainly good advice if you're in a world where awaiting random enrichments from friends is de rigueur. Moving along quickly. What do you think about the ripped jeans fashion phenom?
Insanity. They go out and pay a lot of money to a designer for tearing up pants.
Agreed. I buy a pair and wear them until they rip themselves. What's your best advice for staying original?
What's my best advice for staying original? I think you stay original by being yourself. Not falling into the trap of trying to be like somebody else. And look like somebody else. And say what somebody else is saying. If you know yourself, you stay true to yourself, I think that's the answer.
Any other tips on aging?
Tits? Tits sag like everything else when you get old.
No, goodness. No, dear. I said tips. Tips. Tips on aging. Advice on growing old, since you had so much experience.
Get old, but don't get boring.
Well, I should write that one down. Egbert, take a note. Miss Apfel, it certainly has been a pleasure and delight to have this little tete-a-tete together here on my cheery little chat show, even if post-mortem. But I can see you're getting that wanderlust, that shifty-seaty look. So before you go back to that eternal flea market in paradise, Poos, have you any final words of wisdom to share? Poos.
Don't try so hard to learn everything that you miss the essentials. There is so much mystery in life that you should leave a mystery. You get only one trip. Might as well live it up. And you better hurry.
And off she goes. And isn't she still lovely? She may be gone, but her style survives. And I must say, she seems to have been wearing more jewelry than I have in the whole collection. Perhaps I exaggerate. I've got a fairly large one. Well, darlings, if we've learned anything from today's intoxicating encounter, it's to enjoy your life and live it to the fullest. It's never too late to open up to a new experience. I know I open up whenever I get the chance, though they don't come like they used to. Well, neither do I. I do hope you enjoyed our little taste of Irish Apfel, not Apfel. Though I think if Irish Apple were a drink, it would be cider. A little saucy, quite tangy, and terribly tart. That's all for today, darlings. Do join me next time for another riveting resurrection of who knows who. And don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to me Chanel, por favor. It's all the vogue. So until then, I hope to remain the very stylishly original Lady Mary Pozah. And this has been Famous Interviews.